we have a no dicks allowed rule at Mob Scene, where it's like, you know what, I don't care if people are, super talented, could bring in just a ton of work. If they're jerks, I don't want them in there because they're going to ruin the culture. We call ourselves mobsters. We have since the very, I don't know if that was there when you were there, but it's been a long time that we've been referring to each other as mobsters. And the culture is literally about family and creating family and having each other's back. That was important to me because I saw those last few years at Fox. I had been at Fox where the culture literally was a family culture. When we had people like Tom Sherrick and Joe Roth and Bill Mechanic running the studio, they were very much about family and very, very loyal to the employees and, wanted us to be happy. The longer I was there, the more and more News Corp got put into the culture and the less family aspect that Fox was. And it was something that I really, really missed those last few years at Fox. And probably one of the reasons that also, partially drove me away to try and look and find change my career at that point in time. But that's where we came up with the culture, because it was something that I had experienced early on at Fox. I had missed, I had seen how successful it was. And we retained, that early period of Fox, no one left. Those last 5-6 years I was at Fox, the turnover was constant. And that was because the culture had changed so much.
One of the things that's really difficult for me to understand, and I'm hoping you can help me break this down, is that you have this company, it starts out fairly small, has now exploded to what it is, and it's all about family. But one of the most difficult things for people to figure out, which is essentially what I built my entire business model on, is how do I survive the insanity of working in this industry? How do I survive the brutally long hours and the 24/7 notes and requirements? And if you're going to stay a client of mine, you need to be available at 11 p.m. on a Saturday to do round 37 of these notes on this trailer, that featurette. I mean, you know this world and you've lived and breathed it for decades. So how do you balance being a family and looking over everybody's ultimate needs and being able to survive and thrive with, frankly, the insanity and the requirements of being successful in Hollywood?
Well, see, I think that's exactly why. I don't think if we had a different culture, it would be a completely different situation, and surviving it would not be fun. It's like going back again toward my last few years at Fox. It wasn't fun anymore because we weren't, the culture was no longer a family-like culture. And it's amazing how the way I describe our culture at Mob Scene is 2 words: family and teamwork. And if, we have to have each other's back and we have to like working with each other. A few years ago, if you talk to some of the other employees, of course I was drinking a little bit. It was at the Christmas party and I always give a little toast and speech. And somehow I went off on this thing where I was like, no, we have a no dicks allowed rule at Mob Scene, where it's like, you know what, I don't care if people are, super talented, could bring in just a ton of work. If they're jerks, I don't want them in there because they're going to ruin the culture. So if it's just not worth it to me to have the whole apple cart upset, if to put more money in the coffers of the company and put up with someone who's just a complete a-hole.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I gravitated to you guys. And to this day, it's something that I always think about and a maxim that I have in my mind. It's even one of the things that I said outright when I interviewed for Cobra Kai, is I said that I want to work for a team of people where the best idea wins. You and I can get into a very heated debate about it should be this color or that color, or the copy should be this or that, or whatever it is. That's all part of the creative process, as long as it's respectful. And at the end of the day, I know that it's not about, well, you're the CEO and it doesn't matter how stupid your idea is, you're going to tell me to do it. It's whose idea wins. That to me is what creates the feeling of safety, where you can share ideas even if they're stupid ones, because you're not going to get fired or looked down upon. Sometimes you're going to be right. You'll be wrong sometimes too. But that to me is such an important part of a creative culture, is just this openness to fight for the best idea, but everybody respects each other, because it's not that way everywhere.
No, but it's also, there's a big difference between the long form world that you are now in versus the short form world that we still are mostly in. Because ultimately it's our clients who have the final say on decisions. So my encouragement to editors and writers and producers is put everything you've got into that first cut, because once it gets off to the client, you have no real control over what's going to come back. And then you have to, and look, we're very fortunate. Most of our clients are very, very smart, very creative people. And the notes that we get back are generally, improve the piece a lot. But occasionally they'll have a boss's boss who will want to step in on something like this and just to put their stamp on a piece. And, you hear it in the voice of the client where it's like, you can tell they're not necessarily as thrilled about it, but then you try and make it out. And sometimes you can actually make a not so great idea actually into a really good thing. A bad note into a good note.